Hey Wolfpack, and welcome back. I hope you all are doing well and hopefully had a great week. Today, we're reading 3 more scary police stories. Now, I'll ask is the same thing I did the other day. What's your favorite thing about fall? Mine is the mystery and the fog. What about you? Please comment down below. With that said, whether you're sitting around a campfire, on the night shift, or even laying in bed, let my voice soothe your nightmares. Working as a 911 operator can certainly be stressful, downright traumatic at times, but since I feel like I am truly helping my community, I am more than happy to do it. I live in a mid-sized city, so I have been witness to some insane things. But last night, I was involved in a situation more disturbing than anything else I've heard in my 3 years here. The call came in around 9:15 p.m. Myself.
911, what is your emergency? I'm near a city, and I stopped in the parking lot of some warehouse. There's an overturned car near the entrance on fire, and the warehouse doors are open, but it doesn't look like anyone is in there.
Going through the process of gathering that exact address and getting it to the police. Myself.
Sir, what is your name? Are you able to see anyone in the car trapped? But please, do not get too close, just look. No, sir, my name is Kyle. I don't see anyone inside. Though both the front and passenger doors are open, so someone might have gotten out. I don't see anyone around though. Both a fire truck and a squad car are on their way currently. Can you tell me how big the fire is? Yeah, but there's some weird noises coming from inside the warehouse. Screaming, laughing like. Just something you should know. Oh, the fire. It's not raging. The front of the car is engulfed, but it doesn't really look like it's going to spread any further than that. That noise is getting louder though. I'm gonna wait in my car, alright?
Relayed all updated info to relevant parties. Myself.
That is totally fine, sir. Emergency services will be there in just a couple of minutes. Luckily due to Black Friday, we have them roving around your area quite a bit tonight. Are you alright? Sort of. Wait. It looks like a light turned on somewhere inside the warehouse. No. It looks like every light is turning on in there now. Alright, well, sir, do not exit your vehicle. Authorities are just about to come to your location. That sound stopped, but something doesn't feel right. It feels like there's movement in the warehouse, but I'm not actively seeing any. Oh, wait, I see the squad car and the fire truck. Am I good to hang up? Yes, you are. Thank you so much for reporting this to us. You have a good rest of your night.
Once Kyle hung up, I obviously prepared myself for screening other calls. But since tonight, they had surprisingly been few and far. I decided to listen in on the responding officers at the warehouse incident. Dorian.
Dispatch, 4 Dorian 29 arriving at the warehouse on scene. Firefighters are already taking care of 904A. On what looks to be a sedan, 4 Harry 30 is heading to question the guy that called this in, just to ensure all information checks out on both ends. I'm standing in front of the opened warehouse. Looks to be a miscellaneous electronics warehouse, though no sign of use for quite some time. All lights are on. Some blood right at the entrance, so I'm going to head in to see if we can see our accident victims.
To Harry.
Hey, just a heads up. I found some blood at the warehouse, so when you're done clearing everything up with him, I'd like you to come in with me. I'm gonna check out the front. Copy.
At this point, you can hear Dorian following a set pattern of what is likely puddles of blood and smears. Dorian.
Near the front right corner of the warehouse seems to be a large knife placed on the counter, fresh blood on it. In addition to everything, we may have a possible 1072. Can you please get in here?
Harry.
Heading over.
While I can hear Harry walking into the warehouse, I also hear laughter from Dorian's end, similar to how Kyle described it to me. Dorian.
Police! If you are in here, make yourself known now!
Laughter continues. Harry.
If you are injured, we are here to help. Please, tell us where you are. To Dorian. Let's head down the back road towards what looks like the office back there.
For about 20 seconds, all that can be heard is both them moving and making the same, "If you are injured, tell us your location, plea." Dorian.
Oh, Jesus. Look through the office window. Someone's face down.
To dispatch.
We're dealing with the 1054 here. Requesting backup. Doesn't seem like a normal accident.
Loud scraping can be heard in the background, followed by the same laughter. Dorian.
PD, give us your location now.
Harry.
Do you feel really hot?
At this point, it sounds like whoever is laughing has made themselves known to the officers and are in their sight. Harry.
Put the pipe down now. Put it down and get on the ground.
Dorian.
Harry, what the hell is wrong with him?
To dispatch.
Possible 1060 to occur. Backup needed. Not all right. Sidearm out. To the assailant. Put the pipe down and get on the ground now.
Harry.
I don't feel good. It's really hot.
Instead of laughter, the voice screams out what sounds like a war cry. Shots follow, but something has clearly gone wrong. Dorian to dispatch.
1057. We need backup now. Tell them to quarantine this whole place.
A couple of shots are fired off. Harry.
Run! Get out of here!
It was after this that I had to screen other calls, and when I was finished, I found that I was unable to access the situation. I asked my supervisor what was going on. She said she was told the situation was being handled and to carry on with our duties. Hours later, there's a couple of posts on Twitter of pictures of the warehouse. The entire area is roped off, and the parking lot is filled with multiple squad cars, the fire truck, ambulances, and other vehicles that I can't place. I haven't been able to sleep. It's that damn voice, the laughter, and the scream. Both sounded like they were echoed, but right into the receiver at the same time, and I can't stop hearing it. I wish I hadn't gotten stuck with that call. I'd worked as a police dispatcher for 9 years of my life. It's a career that takes a level of mental fortitude that I don't think many possess. I used to hate saying stuff like that. Always thought it sounded so pretentious. But the truth is, it takes a special type of person to be willing to voluntarily listen to some of the things we have to hear every single day. Don't get me wrong, the job wasn't always grim, and it even had its decent moments. I've got enough decent funny drunk 911 call stories to last me several lifetimes, though the reality of the job was usually far darker. I understand that though, and felt that I was more than equipped to deal with anything the job could throw at me. I was right for a while. For years, I had answered every call, always able to keep a steady head despite being faced with some horrific situations. My confidence in my ability to handle the job unwavering. Until the final call I ever took as a police dispatcher. I glanced at the time displayed at the corner of my computer screen, 11:43. I yawned, leaning backwards in my chair with my arms extended as I stretched my back. I've been at the desk since 3 in the afternoon, answering calls and dispatching officers as they were needed, which wasn't very often in this town. I lived in a little port town in Washington, about an hour or so out of Seattle. And though we weren't without our fair share of crime, our phones never rang off the hook, which meant a lot of free time for me. I was always okay with that. As soul-wrenching as many of the calls could be, moments of respite were always more than welcome. A notification on my screen caught my attention, and, at an instant, I had returned to my seat, headset on.
911, what's your emergency?
For a moment, the line was only dead silence before I heard her reply.
I need policemen. I think somebody is in my house.
A child whispered from the other line. I felt the smallest of knots beginning to form in my stomach. I shifted in my seat.
Do you know your address?
I asked, adopting a firm but lighter tone in response to the caller's age. I heard shuffling and heavy breathing from the other end, followed by a faint
Wait.
The caller returned and whispered their address. She was a little girl, by the sounds of her voice, and she sounded scared.
Good job. What's your phone number?
The process repeated, and I quickly relayed her information to dispatched officers. Her address was on the edge of town, a little out of the way, and I understood that it may be a while before help arrived. I stifled a sigh, not wanting to vocalize my worry as I received an estimated arrival time.
Is there an adult with you in the house?
I continued.
No.
The little girl replied breathlessly, and I could hear the anxiety rising in her voice as she spoke.
My mom works late, and my sister.
There was a pause, followed by an audible sniffle.
She's camping with her friends and...
Somewhere on her end of the line, there was a crash, then a scream. My heart dropped.
Are you still there? Are you alright?
There was a repetitive thumping sound, followed by the slam of a door.
I'm here.
The little girl spoke breathlessly into the phone.
Are you alright?
I repeated the question.
Yes.
Was all she replied, barely above a whisper. Her tone worried me. She sounded more than afraid. Sad? No. Disturbed was the proper word for it. Then she began to cry. Not as quiet as you would expect given her situation, but a deep, helpless sob that made my heart sink. When she spoke, it stopped altogether.
Please, please, please help me.
Her sobs turned into a hysteric cry, and I could hear loud, repetitive thumps from her end. Footsteps, and they were clearly not hers. They were heavy, far too heavy for a little girl. Without warning, a shrill cry, like the sound of a microphone feedback, rang through my headset. The sudden assault on my ears caused me to jump, and my heart set off to racing like a jackrabbit. I fought the instinct to throw the headset off, and instead clenched my eyes shut as the noise faded as suddenly as it had come.
I saw it.
She sputtered through sobs.
Oh, please, please. I don't know what it is.
The frantic and frenzied nature of her begging increased, and a strangeness began to settle in the air that I couldn't quite place. A quick glance around the room confirmed that most of the desks around me were empty, and I was on the call alone. The thought made me feel very isolated, and a growing uneasiness continued to take a hold of me that I couldn't place. Something about that call just felt wrong.
Police are on their way.
I began. I tried to infuse the statement with my usual level of assertiveness and confidence, but I worried that the uneasiness may be audible in my voice.
Can you tell me your name?
Amber?
Alright, Amber. Are you, or can you get somewhere safe? A room with a door you can lock?
I'm in my room.
She said through sniffles, and it was obvious that she had been crying profusely.
I locked the door.
Good. I'm gonna stay with you on the line. Is there anywhere for you to hide?
The sound of footsteps grew in the background as her voice lowered to a whisper.
I think under the bed.
She whimpered.
Okay, is there
I paused, thinking over my words before continuing.
anything you can use to protect yourself?
There was silence on her end for a moment, followed by a hushed.
Yes.
As she dropped the phone, I assumed to get a weapon. The clamor from within the house had grown closer to the phone, and the piercing ringing sound had returned. I was almost certain there had to be something wrong with my headset, or with Amber's phone, and the sound grew to an almost unbearable extent, matched only by deafening thuds from somewhere on the phone. It sounded too close. I could feel the hairs begin to rise on the back of my neck and the ominous sense of panic began to give way to an unexplained fear. The urge to look over my shoulder grew harder to fight, as the persistent thudding grew louder. Nearer. It all sounded too clear, I guess. There was no static, none of the white noise typical of a phone call. Nothing. Just the sound of footsteps approaching closer. Closer. I gave in to my instinct, whipping around in my seat, nearly losing my headset. No one. I had no time to settle my nerves as Amber returned to the line.
Are you there?
She whispered, yanking me from my fog and back into the moment.
Yes.
I replied. I struggled to shake off my fears. Something was very wrong in this situation. Despite my worries, I shifted my attention back to Amber.
There isn't any weapon.
The girl muttered.
But I have something.
There was a pause.
Okay, what do you have?
I asked, realizing my prompt was necessary.
A rabbit. A pink rabbit.
She said, and even over the phone, I could hear a little embarrassment.
My dad gave her to me when I was little.
She sniffled.
He said she would keep me safe.
I didn't know what to say for a moment, but didn't want to miss a beat.
He was right,
I said, as encouragingly as I could.
Everyone knows Pink Bunny's a great protection. Can you go back under? Amber, I miss you.
I could hear a man call from within the house. So the intruder knew her. I furrowed my brow.
Amber, do you recognize that voice?
I asked, hoping she could identify the intruder. There was silence for a moment, before her response.
It sounds like my dad. Why does it sound like my dad?
I blinked.
What do you mean?
That's my daddy's voice. Why does it have my daddy's voice?
I didn't know how to respond to that. Hell, I didn't know what to think about that. Had his voice. Before I could ask what she meant, we were interrupted by a sound. The thing we heard has taken me years to try to understand. I've come to believe it was that things laugh. At the time, though, we couldn't know. It was the sound of metal crunching in a car accident as it met flesh. A wet, grinding shriek that shook me to my core. I wanted to vomit, and my vision began to blur. I can only imagine what it was like for Amber, hearing that all in person.
Amber?
I panted, my senses returning to me all at once. She barely had time to respond before we heard it. A voice, or voices, calling for her from somewhere nearby. They spoke as one, all with the same odd, inhumane nature, dripping with malintent.
Amber.
My blood froze. Amber began to cry, and her cries eventually becoming pleas as she begged for help. Her life, her mother, and my intervention.
Five more minutes.
I muttered, mentally cursing the timer which displayed the estimated arrival time of the dispatched officers. I prayed it would be soon enough.
It's outside the room.
She whispered, her voice one of utter panic, before breaking into a quiet sob. I silently swore under my breath.
Amber, I need you to hide right now if possible. The police are 3 minutes away. Stay as quiet as you can.
There was no response, but I assumed from the shuffling sounds I could hear that she had gone back under the bed. For a few moments, there was silence. Then Amber spoke and my heart dropped.
I'm going to die.
You're not going to die, Amber.
I began, worry now audible in my voice.
I promise.
It's reaching under the door. Oh my God.
She muttered. There was a crash louder than before, and Amber began to shriek. The noises continued, and it began to dawn on me what I was hearing. It was breaking down the bedroom door, Amber's screams had devolved into horrified babbling and pleas for her life to whatever was on the other side of that door. Her screams were soon drowned out by the same noise as before, that sick laughter.
What are you?
Amber shrieked, loud enough to make my ears ring.
Please, what are you?
What are you?
It mocked, in a voice that was some sick parody of Amber's. Panic gripped me as I glanced back at the corner of the monitor displaying the dispatch unit's arrival time, 1:36. Please, God, let it be soon enough.
Amber, are you there?
I called.
Amber!
As suddenly as it had started, everything went silent. Somewhere in the distance, I heard sirens.
I hear them, Amber. Officers are minutes away.
Silence. My heart began to sink.
Amber, are you there?
I could hear something shifting, breathing.
I think it's gone.
Amber said. A surge of relief rolled through me, and I let out a sigh and leaned back in the chair. 0027, the dispatch time read, and the sirens in the background grew louder.
You did very well, Amber. Police are almost there. You did really well.
I couldn't think of what else to say. I'd never had a call like this, and something about it all felt so strange. Something Amber had said began to ring in my mind. What are you?
Amber,
I began.
what did you see?
I was met with silence.
Amber?
Amber began to laugh,
Amber, I said.
my voice pleading, a wave of realization crashing down on me. The laughter grew more raucous and less human with every second. Somewhere in the background, there was a knocking sound. They had finally arrived, too late. I asked the only thing I could think of at the moment.
Why?
The laughter stopped abruptly, as the thing on the phone spoke.
It was fun.
There was a click, and the line went dead. The house was empty when officers arrived. No signs of forced entry anywhere except the doors to Amber's bedroom, the bottom of which had been torn away by something leaving a wide space to crawl beneath. And Amber, or what was left of her, decorated the room. Whatever had been there left nothing behind to identify it, only carnage. The case was never officially closed, and everyone had their theories as to what had happened that day, ranging from serial killers to a bear attack, and everything in between. The call was never made public, not my decision, but not one I necessarily complained about either. I never want to hear that recording again. I put in my 2 weeks' notice that same night, though I never returned to work after that day. I'd been content to try and forget about that call. As callous as it may sound, I was content trying to forget about Amber, to forget whatever I had spoken to on that phone. But I don't think it's done with me. Last night, I dreamed, or had thought I was dreaming, the sounds of footsteps running throughout my house, as something screeched and laughed and mocked me just outside my bedroom door. I stayed in my bed long into the morning, despite the sounds having stopped, paralyzed by a mixture of fear and confusion, until, eventually, I convinced myself to leave the bed. I crossed the room, cursing every creak the floor made under my weight. I lowered myself to the ground, holding my breath as I peered under my bedroom door. There was something there, but it wasn't moving. I mustered up the little bravery I had left, and rose to my feet, my eyes shut tight and a prayer on my lips. I pulled open my bedroom door slightly and stuck my head out just enough to see what lay outside. I stifled a gasp, and tears flooded my eyes as I bent over to pick up the object. Placed right outside my door was a little pink bunny, covered in dark stains. From somewhere within the darkness, just beyond the bedroom door, Amber's laughter echoed. I was just clearing out the old tapes from the precinct storage room. There was no one around, So, for my own amusement, I decided to listen to some old interviews with witnesses and suspects. I popped a lot of them into the player, one after the other. A few of them were quite entertaining, like the one of two sorority girls having been caught in a vicious purse-wielding duel to the deaths. For obvious reasons, I stayed away from the homicides and the other serious stuff. Soon after sifting through a few more, I came across this one tape, just marked Harris. My curiosity got the better of me, so I popped it in. This tape was the one that made me finally quit my job. I had been wanting to quit it for a while, but this one really was the last straw. I did not want to be reminded that stuff like this had ever taken place. I have transcribed the entire tape onto here. Forgive me for any mistakes. I just wanted to get it out as quickly as possible to share it with someone. I'm not even sure if I'm allowed to use the full names. Don't bother Googling them. You won't find anything. Believe me, I tried. Loud sound of a fan whirring. Someone coughs audibly. A chair creaks as someone sits down.
Okay, so we are here with... Can you state your full name for the record, please? Desmond Harris. But Mama used to call me Des, actually. So can you if you want. I'll go with Mr. Harris for now. So, Mr. Harris, can you tell me what happened right from the starting? The starting? Yes, the starting. Well, it all actually started when I first returned home to my mama. She had been sick lately, so I wanted to take care of her. Your home, as in a little town. It's right next to the city, actually. You should visit sometime. The people are really friendly. I remember one time I accidentally got stuck in one of the trees, and there was no one home, so I just screamed hoping someone would hear me. Mr. Harris, if we could get back to your story, please. Yes, of course. Alright. So, as I said, I went home to my mama. She was right delighted to see me. I mean, she even already had my favorite breakfast made despite not having known I was gonna be there. I always knew she had the perfect intuition. And when had you reached your hometown? December. No, November 31st, 2003. Yes, that's it. Mr. Harris, there is no November 31st. There isn't? Oh my, I'm sorry. It must have been December 1st. I do always get my dates mixed up. It's a real problem. Someone laughs awkwardly. Okay, so she had my favorite breakfast set up, and she had this huge, giant grin on her face. That was when I started suspecting that something was wrong. You suspected something was wrong because she was smiling? Not smiling. She was straight up grinning. Mama always smiled so daintily, so soft. It made you so comfortable. This one was almost uncomfortable. I did not think it was her. It was that parasite. Parasite? What do you mean of a parasite? Not your usual kind, that's for sure. Anyway, over the next few days, I started noticing even stranger and stranger things. Really unusual ones. Can you give me some examples of the things you found unusual? Okay, well, for example, one night I was sitting in the living room watching the television. SpongeBob was on. You know that episode where Squidward and SpongeBob deliver pizza to a customer? I really love that one. Always reminds me of the time when I was a young and... Mr. Harris. Oh, yes, of course. So, I was on the couch watching SpongeBob when I heard the screen door slam shut. It was the one out on the porch. It was not a particularly windy night, and the door was locked anyway. So, I got up to check it out, and...
The voice trails off.
Mr. Harris, what did you find? The voice continues, now sounding broken. Mama. She was just curled up near the patio chair. Her body was rocking back and forth, just like a damn rocking horse. So I kneel down towards her and say, Mama, it's cold. Why don't you come back inside? And then she looks up with these dead eyes, I swear on Lord Jesus. Those eyes held a dearth of life in them, and then she opened her mouth and just screamed.
For a few seconds, no one speaks.
Then I knew that parasite was back again. It had taken my father, and now it wanted her too. It was going to latch itself onto her, corrupt her, taint her, and oh, my sweet lord, Mr. Harris. Mr. Harris, are you feeling alright? Yeah, don't pretend to care for me. I know time is running out. I'll continue. Over the next few days, I saw Mama slowly deteriorating. She grew frail, her eyes always shaky and never staying in one place. She was skittish, the slightest noise scaring her. Sometimes, she even seemed to be scared of me. And that damn parasite, it had now slowly latched itself onto her completely. She had been corrupted. What do you think that parasite exactly was? I had a brush with it in the past. My dad. I knew the same thing was happening to Mama too. Getting hollowed out from the inside out, going crazy and then just... never mind. One day, I woke up and got out of bed to go to the bathroom. Now, I did not have my slippers on, as our bathroom has its own slippers, and I could not be bothered to put mine on. Where are you going with this exactly? I have a point to this. So, I was not wearing any slippers, no socks either, and when I came out to the bathroom door, my feet hit a slimy surface and I slipped and fell. When I looked down to see what it was, you can bet that I immediately wished I had never set sight on it. According to your earlier reports, it was fecal matter, was it not? Don't start with your flowery language. It was a behemoth piece of shit, and you and I both know it. Mr. Harris, if you could please stop swearing. This is a police precinct. Oh, screw you. I've had enough with your patronization. I will leave right now. Mr. Harris, stop. You can't leave.
There was sounds of a struggle and grunts, but soon the man sat back down onto the chair with a loud sigh.
Were you angry with your mother for what had happened? Not at all. I was disgusted, sure, but Mama had wiped off my turds countless times. She didn't get out of her room any more after that. She was getting sicker and sicker by the day. She could hardly even speak to me anymore. She often just urinated on the carpet or anywhere she pleased. Her room reeked of it. One day, I finally gathered up the courage to clear it out. I had to go in wearing a mask to clean it, and you know what I found there? Just on her pillow. What did you find, Mr. Harris? I found this giant clot of blood. Black, gungy, and disgusting. Thick and shiny like tar. It was about the size of a saucer, writhing and slowly pulsating like a human heart. I kid you not, at that moment I almost threw up, and when I touched it with a gloved hand, a swarm of flies just flew out and across the room. Your mother, what had happened to her for that to happen? I have no idea, and for God's sake, she had been sleeping on that thing on her pillow for who knows how long. Enough to breed maggots and let them grow, that's for sure. Then, throughout the day and the next, I could see a shadow in my peripheral vision. If Mama was present in the room, it was there too, right in the corner of my vision. If I looked directly at it, it went away. I had experienced the same thing with my father. The day I saw the shadow around him was the day he died, and so did Mama.
The man breaks down, his sobs audible through the tape.
How did your mother die, Mr. Harris? That parasite killed her. That damn parasite. It chewed her out from the inside and killed her. It killed my mother. Mr. Harris, did you kill your mother? How dare you? How dare you accuse me of that? There was the sound of a crash and a yell. A door opens. The screams grow louder and louder until they find receded behind a closed door. There was complete silence until a shaky voice finally spoke up. This was Officer Brighton with the suspect, 56-year-old Desmond Harris, who has been charged with the murder of 72-year-old Greta Harris by slow poisoning.
He has also been accused of having murdered 47-year-old Terrace Harrison 30 years ago, the investigation of which is still underway. The defense pleads not guilty by reasons of insanity. Thanks for listening, Wolfpack. If you want to submit your own story, the links for my email and subreddit will be down below. I've also created a Discord, so if you want to join that, the link will be in the description down below as well. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And with that said, have beautiful nightmares, and I will see you next time.